Welcome to the Shine Away podcast. I'm joined today by Matt Tinsley, the head basketball coach of the Topeka Seaman Lady Vikings. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thank you for
Hey, thank
having
you for
me.
having me.
Feel
You feel
privileged and honored
privileged
to
and
be here.
honored to be here.
Yeah, I was very excited when Ryan Roby gave me your information and you were willing to jump on. So before we get started with the questions, I want to go through the long list of accolades that are Matt Tinsley. He's currently the head coach of the Topeka Seaman Lady Vikings since 2017. He is a Topeka Seaman alum, the class of 2000. He currently also coaches middle school cross country. In 2024, they won the 5A state championship, which was the first one in 33 years for Seaman. He was the 2024 5A Coach of the Year by Sports in Kansas, as well as the Shawnee County Coach of the Year. They are the current back-to-back-to-back UKC champions. In 2025, they were the 5A state runner-up. They have the best winning percentage in the UKC history at 96%. They're 46-2. He was the Centennial League Coach of the Year in 2020 and 2022. He's been the United Kansas Conference Coach of the Year in 2023, 24, and 25. He himself played basketball at Washburn University, and they were the MIAA champs in 2001, 2002, and 2004 with the record of 102 and 24. In 2001, they were the NCAA Division II runner-up. He was a four-time All-Academic MIAA guard, as well as spending some time as a grad assistant at Washburn. Matt spent some time coaching boys basketball at St. Mary's, Jefferson West, and Topeka Hayden, along with spending time coaching middle school basketball. He's part of the Washburn University Hall of Fame 2001 men's basketball team. He has 7 sub-state championships and state qualifying teams as a head coach in 08, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25. He's married to Carrie, who also played college basketball at Benedictine and was on a state championship basketball team at Hayden High School. They have 2 kids who are also very active in sports. So that's a long list of accolades, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that. You win with people. I've been very fortunate to be on a lot of good teams growing up at Washburn, and been on a lot of great teams in high school. And with the teams I coach now, I feel successful because of the people I went with along the journey. I've had great teammates at Washburn and great assistant coaches and great players I've coached in the team. And when you reach out to me about this interview, it's really given me some time to reflect about, where I've been, what I've been able to accomplish. And I thought more about the people that I've met along the way, friendships I developed, relationships. I've been very fortunate to be a part of. The game has been very, very good to me, and I look forward to giving this game back to other people, and that's why I enjoy coaching. But definitely, I've been very fortunate to be part of some good experiences with the game.
Yeah, I mean, to do as many things as you've done in the sport of basketball, it's definitely a team game, and so being able to have good coaches when you're playing and then also have good players when you're coaching, it all kind of goes together, and that shows. And I've had the fortune of watching your teams at the Lady Vikings here the last 3 years, um, and just the way they play as a team has been fun to watch, and that's one of the reasons I really look forward to having this conversation with you, is just because I really like watching your girls play.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate that people recognize that we have great girls who play together. My job is easy when you have great players like that. But as a coach, that's what I like to hear. That hey, your kids play hard, you play the right way.
Oh, absolutely. So let's jump backwards. So obviously you were a basketball player growing up. Was there any other sports that you played?
Yeah, I played all
Yeah,
the
I played all the
sports.
sports.
I played
Played
soccer,
soccer, flag football, baseball.
baseball. Then in high school, I ran cross country and track, and was pretty good at track. If I didn't play college basketball, I needed to run track. But basketball's always been my favorite ever since I was little. And I started playing since I was 6 years old. And at that time, you played a season you played sport every season. It wasn't a year long sports that you see today. So I feel like my parents did a good job of getting me involved with a lot of sports at a young age. And although basketball is my favorite, I always picked up everything from other sports. Being a good teammate, being able to work hard, being dedicated, and I really enjoy the multi-sport athletes that I get to coach. And I tell them all the time, basketball may not be your best sport, but you can be a good teammate, you can be a team player, develop hard work skills and being able to work well with other people. There's a lot of skills that you can learn, uh, even though it's not your main sport. And I love sports as a kid growing up, and I think back to the coaches that I had as well that were very impactful on me becoming a coach. With my parents, my dad being my first coach, my parents were very supportive of me growing up, giving my sister and I the opportunity to want to even play sports. And it took us to practice those games and really sacrifice. And that's something that I appreciate because I know not everybody gets that opportunity. And I think maybe in middle school is when I thought, maybe I'd want to be a coach someday. I've always loved school, even since I was little. And it's, me being a teacher and a coach, it doesn't feel like work. I'm doing something that I enjoy. You can't, I've been in the job for 20 years now. And if you don't love what you do, this definitely is not the career for you. But in middle school, I had a great eighth grade basketball coach, and Bob Calderwood. That I remember, I just really enjoyed him teaching us the game. I really fell in love with the game. So I can see myself maybe doing this someday, along with Keith Pelton in middle school and high school. And my high school basketball coach, Steve Darding, who I'm very fortunate to coach with now, he's one of my assistant coaches. He's the foundation that I've got a lot of my coaching background from. Just like how to run a practice and thinking about the whole season, thinking about the kids. He's really helped me along the way, and it's special that we get to share those championships together since I played for him in high school and then in college. Coach Chipman, who was a great influence on me. I was very fortunate, and I was a reserve guard. I didn't play a lot. I knew my role was to bring it every day in practice, make the most of every opportunity that I got in the game. I kind of took on the mindset that if it was good for the team, then it was good for me. And we were fortunate to win 102 games in 4 years. But Coach Chipman he was tough. He got us to work hard, and he would tell us all the time. Every day is an evaluation. I never forgot that, and learned a lot from him. And was very fortunate to be a graduate assistant for him. And working with Coach Chipman, I realized, hey, this is something that I would like to pursue. After my time here at Washburn. And in fact, actually, I had a year off after my grad assistant year where I worked. So I had a business degree from Washburn. I was working in the business world and always went back to as I wanted to be a teacher. So I made the right decision and going back to school. And it's one that I will never regret. And just becoming a coach, I've just been around great coaches too. Steve Alexander was the head coach for senior high school here for 24 years. I got to take the program from him and spent some time coaching with him. He's been very influential in my coaching career. The assistants that I have now, Dan Ruda, Aubrey Taylor. I've coached with Tatiana Dowling and Erica Yoder, and one of my former players, Reagan Kramer, is now joining my staff as a coach. So I feel like we have a good thing going here. And like I said, to just always reflect back on the people that I've been on this journey with. And that's the main thing.
Yeah, it sounds like, I coach middle school, and so I haven't got to the high school level, and I've thrown it around, but middle school is kind of a good spot for where I am in my life. But like you, my first coach was my dad, and that was one of the drivers. But then I had Dennis Harris, Coach Harris to me, as a middle school coach, and then Kevin Williams as my high school coach. And each one was very instrumental in what I do and how I like to play and do things. And so it's very similar to you. And so that is awesome that you're able to take a little bit from every level and kind of then also mesh it with just your own ideas and what you want to do. But
I like what you said. The players, they always remember their coach. And hopefully someday when I'm done coaching, my players look back and be like, Coach Tinsley was the coach that cared about me as a person.
yeah, I mean that's the most thing, and that leads me into the main reason I like to do these conversations with coaches is the why, and I kind of got a little glimpse into that. Like it's been a passion of yours, but why do you like to coach, and what about your program do you hope your kids remember?
Well, I feel like coaching kind of found me. I've always loved this game. When you're done playing, you want to stay involved somehow. And yeah, I've always felt like this is the place that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a coach at Seaman High School where I went. The beauty of coaching, I think, is that you get to do something for someone they don't really get the chance to pay you back. You do it for the people and the relationships that you build. One thing that I like for my players that I look out someday is, as I mentioned earlier, Coach Tinsley really cared about me, but he pushed me. We don't cut corners here, and I tell the girls all the time. Your 30-year-old, 40-year-old, is counting on me to push you today, to hold you accountable today. There's some ways tough. Basketball's a tough sport. That's like life. Overcoming adversity. A lot of coaches talk about that. Um, you can't speed up the preparation. You can't slow it down. But if you can continue to bring it every day, through the good days and the bad, you'll be successful in the end. But definitely the hard work aspect of it. I can remember speeches Coach Harding would give us, 25, 30 years ago. And I said, well, I'm using this with my kids today at practice. But yeah, I feel like, high school, those are crucial years to development of people. And I've been very fortunate to have great teachers and coaches growing up. And I would like to be that same spark for people going forward. They take a little bit of me with them. It really is more than losses, although there's no coach that wants to lose. But I feel like if we continue to do the right things and play the right way, that good things will happen.
Yeah, you mentioned one of your former players are now on your staff, and it growing up being a Seaman alum, how do you bring kind of alumni that you've coached and even some that were before your time back and kind of keep them a part of the program?
Well, one of my assistant coaches, Aubrey Taylor, she played at Seaman. She was a All-American at Baker. So we have two former players on staff. And every year I have a reunion where I bring back a state place team, or just this last year we brought back the first basketball team ever. And one of the grandmothers on that team had a granddaughter playing on her team right now. So you're kind of bridging that gap. And that was really cool and special to see. And I know the girls on your team look forward to the day where 20 years from now, if I'm still coaching here, they can come back for the reunion. I know it's a special time for them. We bring them into our locker room after the game, and a lot of memories are shared. So I like to do that. And one thing I do with my little kids during our camp, I write letters to the kids throughout the year. I write them a letter thanking them for coming to camp. I write letters to the girls throughout the season, as a way to make you feel like you're more than just a basketball player. We want to get to know the person side of you, so you can keep those relationships strong. After. I think that's how you build a consistent program. You get the community involvement behind, and we have a great community. We have great support from administration. I may be the person up front as the head coach, but it really takes the people behind that person to make our community and to make our program strong. So it's definitely a collection of individuals.
You got your first start in boys basketball in high school at St. Mary's, and then you went to Jeff West and Topeka Hayden, I believe.
Yeah.
What did you learn coaching boys that you've used on the girls' side now at Seaman, and what have you realized that, hey, maybe this does work for the boys' side in high school, but maybe it won't work? Is there things that you did and do?
Well, the locker room smells a lot nicer. I'll say that. But to me, it's always been about basketball. I enjoy coaching girls. I never thought I would be a girls basketball coach. And I've told the girls this before years ago. I always thought I'd be a boys basketball coach. But my wife, she's a state champion basketball player. And one of my friends who coached the Milan Indians, where the movie Hoosiers is based off of, one of the assistant coaches before he passed away, he said, you should try coaching girls. You'd be really good at it. Never thought about it. I'm glad I did. That was the best career decision I've ever made, is coaching girls basketball. I feel like girls really listen better. They buy into being part of the team. Not that boys didn't, but I've just really enjoyed what I've done here at Seaman, and I learned from a great guy and Steve Alexander. Very fortunate for the opportunity. But as far as the game itself, I mean it's all in the hoop. It doesn't matter situation.
Yeah, I had a friend who, in a youth basketball, he coached his son, and then he coached his daughter's team, and he said it's the craziest thing when you went from boys to girls that they neither one really pays attention, but girls don't have to pay attention to hear you. They still get it, and they can multitask where boys can't. And he said that was the biggest adjustment he had to make was I thought I got him one time, and he's like, nah, they all just rattled off exactly what I said, and so it didn't. I couldn't get them like the boys. The boys had no clue, but
Yeah, I mean I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn, but I really enjoy where I'm coaching at, who I get to coach with.
so if you had your choice and you had the right players to do your style, what is your style of basketball that you prefer to play?
Well, I like to play fast and up tempo. That's how I like to play when I was younger. But you have to think about your personnel who you have every year. But definitely, I like to get out and run, play tough, half court defense, but unselfish play. When I was at Washington, we'd have five guys in double figures. Better to have that than one guy averaging 20. That's one thing I try to instill in my players. Everybody has a role that they need to do. Not everybody can score. But if we're unselfish, we're hard to guard, we're tough to beat. So definitely the unselfish play. I like it when I'll be out at Dillon somewhere or Walmart out shopping. And, hey, I watch your team play. I just love how hard you guys play, or you guys play the game the right way. That's like the ultimate compliment. You can see that the girls like each other. They play as a team. They do all the dirty work. They get on after loose balls, take charges. They genuinely care about each other. I really like hearing that from fans and other coaches. Like I said, it's easy to understand, but it's hard to do. Being able to sacrifice, you know, thinking about the team success over my own. But I think basketball is the ultimate team experience that you can go through in high school sports. But being a good teammate, be the first one to help someone up when they take a charge. We have a rule in our team. If someone subs out of the game, everybody ends up. Little things like that go a long way.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember watching your team this last year specifically because she was a senior, but even the previous year, I really noticed it. I think her name's Anna Becker, if I remember right, and she seemed like she could have went for 20, 25 almost any night she wanted, but she embodied what you said about unselfish play. She realized that if I can get the other four people going where they had to focus and guard them too, then when I get my chance, it's going to be that much easier. And it was just fun to watch. And I also, speaking of multi-sport, I have friends on the DeSoto team, so I went and watched her twice. Um, they beat as a junior. She had the one goal in the 1-0 win where she just on a corner kick, she outplayed the girl and got a corner or headed it in, I think. And then this last year, DeSoto got him, but I saw her doing the exact same thing on the soccer field, and she transitioned it to basketball as well. Or I guess it'd be basketball to soccer the way it sets up in the sports organization. Uh, but yeah, she and I'm sure wherever she ended up, I can't remember where she went, but she's going to be a great team player no matter where she goes, and that's a big testament to the way you guys play.
Yeah, she's going to Drake. She's going to play out there, and yeah, you're right. She could have scored 20 every night, but our team may not have been as good. Your point guard, you need your leader to do that. She broke her school record in scoring and assists, but she made everybody else better. And kids want to contribute. And like I said, we had multiple scorers out there, and that made it harder to defend. And we always preach team first and credit the girls we coached. You mentioned Anna with her leadership, and the girls over the years I've been here have always bought into that team aspect. It's not about me; it's about we. What can we accomplish together? That scoreboard doesn't say your name up there. I tell the girls that all the time. That's our school. What are you going to do to contribute to our team success? And it's not always points. It's hard to get that through to kids. They feel like they have to score be successful. We need people to play defense. We need people to rebound. So I think kids succeed when they know what their role is. And, not everybody can score, but you can do the little things and that can help our team win. I tell our girls all the time, you can help us win a game just by making one play. Your one play in the game could be the turning point, or it could be the momentum changer that could, spring us to the top. And the credit our girls, they see that the team success, far outweighs anything that they can do individually. And I tell them, if you take care of the person on the left and the person on the right, the person in the middle gets taken care of. So that's the team atmosphere that we like to create.
Yeah, what you're talking about there is something that as a middle school coach, and you've been there, where there's a lot of shot hunting for middle school boys. They want to get their shots because in their mind, if I score 10 or 15, then I'd had a good game. And I've tried to explain to them that when you really start to value that person being the person that catches it, makes that extra pass, passes up a good shot for a better shot, that's when you start to make a better team, because that
Yeah,
shot over there, or sometimes it's just recognizing that I'm a good shooter. That's the best shooter on the team that's wide open. So make that extra pass. And when they start to do that, that's when you become tough as a team to beat.
yeah, it's not equal opportunity when it comes to shooting. I just want the girls to say it's not your shot, it's our shot. In some games, I'll just write the number 10 up on the board before the game. I'll ask the girls, what do you think this means? It takes 10 hands to score a basket. Yeah, I might be open here, but my teammate has a better look. And I like the girls when they get excited and then when they get assists. When they see their teammates have success, it's contagious. And we like to celebrate the good plays that we make. And you talked about shot selection. I talk a lot about alignment and assignment. That girls hear me say that all the time. Are you where you're supposed to be? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? If you're where you're supposed to be, you're doing what you're supposed to do, we can have success. That requires everybody to be on the same page.
Yeah. So you had the high of highs in 2024, finishing the state championship, and then in 2025, obviously it's not the lowest because you got second, but at that moment it's the lowest of lows because you're that close to getting a second one. How different, and what did you do after each of those?
Oh man. Well, it was always a dream of mine to win a state championship. I think everybody does that. Even when they're little, they're in their yard shooting the last second shot. I've always, I want to win a state championship here. And they're just so emotional. I wish everybody could experience that because you really can't put it into words what it meant. You put your heart on the line for everything and to be able to celebrate it with people you care about, looking up at family members in the stands, my kids, my wife, my parents, other family members, parents of the kids that we coach. I mean, for like 2 weeks straight, I would just see a different picture on social media that I didn't see during the time. And those are memories that are going to last forever and that will never be taken away from us. We got really, really close this year. I told the girls, we were in first place for 119 out of 120 days during the season, and we just happened to lose the last one. It just wasn't in the cards for us. We wanted our goal was to run it back, but like we may not have won, but we still ran it back as far as terms and how you have to bring it every day. Life doesn't always work out to your advantage, and it's how do you handle those situations when life doesn't go your way. And in 2020, we won the first round game of the 5A state tournament to have the tournament canceled because of COVID. And that's when I feel my lowest lows. We got there, we had I thought we could do it, and then the rug just got from under us. That was the hardest thing I had to do as a coach. I had to tell the girls, "Hey, we're not going to finish this tournament after you worked your whole life for it." And we were really upset and almost depressed because of that. Because that's kind of the ultimate feeling to win that championship. That just kind of fueled the fire. And after we won that championship in 24, I texted those girls that played in 2020 and said, we did this for you guys. And they were genuinely happy for us. Always remember that team, a special team, that 2020 team. But last year, just, coming so close. But still very proud of the team. what they overcame. Second place in the state is nothing to be upset about. But at the time, yeah, it hurt. Because you put so many hours into it, and you want to celebrate those moments, people you care about. But down the road, I think those guys are going to look back and say we accomplished a lot in that 2 year period.
And I think I saw you guys play a couple of times, and I was very impressed. At least from an outsider's perspective, I didn't see it didn't seem like the girls were feeling any pressure to run it back. I know that had to be a goal, like you mentioned. Obviously, it's everybody's goal when they win it, and there is a little dynamic. I'm sure you had some graduations and different people playing different roles, but it never felt like watching you guys throughout the year that they were smart enough or capable enough to not put extra pressure on themselves. Like they knew they were good, and that hey, we're the defending state champ. And a lot of times that can get to the next year's team, even if it's not the same kids, and they don't get to that game. They don't give themselves the chance to win it in that game. So that was really impressive from an outside perspective to watch you guys be able to kind of keep that down and just play your game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about the season. We're not defending. We don't want to look at ourselves as defending state champions because when you defend, you get on your heels and you're not attacking. So we're pursuing just like everybody else. And that was our mindset. And as coaches, we try to take a lot of that pressure on us so we don't put pressure on the players. We just want them to play free. Every game is the most important game. After our last regular season game, we were 20-0, and one of the newspaper media guys asked me, "Hey, you just ran the table the regular season." And I felt great, but we had our eyes set on something here. So the girls, they brought it all the time. Game nights, they were locked in, but we just tried to tell them that pressure is a privilege. And a lot of people want this situation. We don't run from expectations. Having that pressure, hey, that you're good is a good thing. That means you worked hard for this position, and we wanted to be our best when our best was there. So before big games, I as a coach, I really just tried to focus on, hey, my best coaching needed to be on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays when we didn't have games, and trying to prepare the girls for every situation that we may come across. Just like we tell them, no different than studying for a test. We're preparing for when we get out there, that we can handle it. And that comes with practice. We practice a lot of scenarios, situations. Put time up on the clock. How do we handle this situation? So in the game, just reassuring them, hey, we've been there, we've done this. I try to stay calm in those situations. Not just go out and do it. And if you think about it, you get to do it together.
Yeah. You talked about your style prefer to play fast. You prefer to play fast. Did you have to adjust any to the new 35-second shot clock, or did that really impact many of your games?
Yeah, the state tournament, it impacted it. We play with it all year, and then we did it in the state tournament.
That's
So
right.
we didn't have very many shot clock violations, maybe a couple, and I think maybe the first one we had, we didn't even realize. I looked up at the shot clock. Oh man, you just weren't used to the shot clock, going off. But it would have been nice if we had it in the state tournament. That's part of the strategy that comes into the game. How do we handle 2-for-1 situations? So those are things that we practice. But I think it's going to be all season or even the state tournament this year. So it was a change that needed to be made. It's helped the game grow and prepare students for playing at that next level if they get a chance to do that.
You've had 3 or 4 years. I mean, all your teams have been pretty good, but really state level the last couple of years, and you knew it. Leading up to that, how do you try to prepare them outside of your conference has been pretty tough. DeSoto's had some good teams. Piper's been good, and then you mix in some of the others here and there. But how do you try to find games? Because I know you're limited on the number of games, and with Spring Hill coming in, it's going to get even tougher for you guys to find non-con games or opportunities to play maybe some teams that can really challenge you, maybe a 6A school here or there, or a 5A school that you may see down the road. How do you try to do that so you guys can get a little different flavor than just playing the same teams over and over?
Yeah, it is nice that now we get to play 23 games. So we want to go out and play the best teams that we can play. We see who we are as a team, and the most competitive players love the most competitive games. We feel like that's going to help us, down the road, come sub-state time. Coach Schumann always, said as a player that practice needed to be more intense than the games. So, you really get after the girls in practice. And, a lot of them will say, man, we work hard. And no one's going to outwork us. No one's going to outrun us or effort us. If you still have, some games that you think you're going to win, you can't take that time off during practice. We can't afford to take two steps back. Every game is the most important. But definitely looking for opportunities to play the best in the state because that's what we want to be. And you do that by playing good competition.
Well, before we transition to the end of the questions for this, you have something special that you messaged me about and that I am very, very curious to hear more about because I'm a big fan of the movie Hoosiers, and you were able to make a connection with them. And so you sent me a PowerPoint, which I've been through a couple of different times, but just talk to me about how you got connected with the Hoosiers and how you've stayed in touch with them.
Sure. So this was in 2009. Like I said, I think Hoosiers is the best sports movie ever. I mean, everybody who's played basketball or coached basketball has watched that movie. So as a kid, I watched it all the time. Pretend I was Jimmy Chitwood in my backyard making shots. But in 2009, I was just on the internet one summer, and there's a museum in Milan, Indiana, where this story is kind of based off of. The Hickory was a made up name in the movie, and the museum director, I told her, "Hey, I'm really interested. This is pretty cool. I'm a fan. I'm a coach." She's like, "Well, if you come down tomorrow, Highland, Indiana, you can meet the real life players that played in that game." I said, "Wow, this is like a dream come true." So I drove overnight, like 6 p.m. to like 6 a.m. is like a 10-hour drive, and got to meet the real life players that played in that game. They were state champions in 1954. A lot of Hollywood had to, put their Hollywood take on that, to make it, entertaining. It was a small town in Highland, Indiana. The year before, they made the Final Four. So back then in Indiana, they didn't have a class basketball system like we have today, 5A, 6A. It was just one class. So you had small schools playing large schools, and there was one state champion. And the Milan Indians, they won the state championship. They had 161 students, and they had a population of 1,000, and they beat Muncie Central, who had won 4 or 5 state championships, on a last second shot. And the guy who made the shot, Bobby Plump, in fact, his birthday was just last week. He was 89 years old. I got to meet him and all the players who played in the game in 1954, and the assistant coach, Clarence Kelly, who in the movie is Shooter. And in the movie, his assistant coach was the town drunk and former player. He wasn't like that in real life. That was Hollywood's spin on it. Clarence Kelly became a great friend of mine. We probably wrote letters for, oh man, 8 or 9 years, talked on the phone once a month. And he's one that, and my wife convinced me to coach girls basketball. I learned so much from him, and he was the scout on that team. That team, they ended up beating Oscar Robertson's high school team in order to get to the championship game. And in the movie, so the only part about the movie in real life that's factual is the last 18 seconds of the game. The guy gets the ball up top, he holds it, and Bobby Plump makes a shot to win the game. In real life, the score was 32 to 30. I think in the movie it was 42 to 40. But where they filmed the last movie in Hoosiers is where Bobby Plump made the shot in real life in Butler Fieldhouse in front of, I don't know how many fans, that probably 16, 17,000 fans. And he made that shot on that spot in real life. And in that game, the Milan team was actually down in the fourth quarter. They stalled and they held the ball for like 4 minutes in that game. Bobby Plum just stood up top and dribbled basketball. Their coach was 24 years old, so it wasn't old Norm Hackman. He played at Butler University And they call it like a cat and mouse game where they do the four corners before Dean Smith four quarters. So they run the clock, but they're disciplined. They taught a lot of fundamentals, and Hollywood took care of the rest. But it was a pretty neat story that I've been able to keep in touch with those guys. So with my middle school boys basketball team at St. Peter when I started, with my girls, we've watched the movie Hoosiers, and we've talked with Coach Kelly before he passed away, and we did Skype with Bobby Plump. It's got, hey, this is a real life guy who made that shot, and it's a pretty neat experience. But like I said, Milan is the name of the real town. It's not Hickory. The gym is in Knightstown, Indiana. So a couple of summers ago, my wife had a business conference at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. So we went out to Knightstown. It's outside Indianapolis. And we were there and it was closed, but there was a side door open. So my kids and we went in there. There was a couple museum people in there and they gave us a tour of that gym where they filmed the movie. And we got to shoot shots on that floor. It was pretty cool. So that wasn't the town in real life. That's just where they filmed all the movie stuff. But yeah, I could talk probably for an hour about that team and what they went through. Bobby Plump played at Butler University. A lot of those they had a professional baseball player on that team, movie star. It's great to think a school of 160 kids. They didn't have running water, plumbing in their homes leading up until that time, and they were just your average people. I feel like they won the game, had 40,000 people in their town the next day to celebrate. You're talking a town of 1,000. 40,000 people in their town to welcome them back. And so they realized it was so special that they achieved.
Yeah. So here in Kansas, that'd be a 1A school, maybe a 2A, beating a 6A.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And you've coached different classes on the boys' side.
Yeah, I coached 2A at St. Mary's, and we won a sub-state championship. So we got to state that year. That was a lot of fun, yeah.
Do you think your team could have beat some 6As?
That year, we would have competed for sure. Yeah, for sure. And then when I was at Hayden as an assistant coach, we made it to the state championship game, and lost to McPherson. But, there's great players everywhere, regardless.
I think that's what I've always taken away from that movie, that if you put in the time and the effort and you have committed individuals on the team, that you can do something special.
Really
Not saying you're going to win the state championship because it takes a lot, but you can put yourself in a position to do it. And reading through your presentation that you did for your middle school, your girls, that's kind of the theme I got from that, is that, maybe they weren't the most talented. Obviously, they had some talent, but not all basketball talent. They were talented in other things, but they were willing to work.
Right.
And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was in the right place at the right time. And it was an amazing feeling.
Well, let's jump over to some quick hitters here to wrap up. So you've coached 3 different boys' schools, and you've coached now at the Lady Vikings for a few years now. Give me your starting 5 of the people you've coached.
Oh man, that'd be like me trying to have a son and a daughter trying to pick my favorite kid. I can't do that. It's like, is my mom's cooking better than my wife's cooking? No, you're going to get me in trouble here. That'd be really hard to do because, like I said, everybody has a different role. Not everybody can be the star, but you can be the star in your role. But man, just to pick 5 players, that'd be tough.
You can go to full 8, a full bench. That's what Roby did. Roby stretched it out to 8. He tried to get a few in there. I said, you can't go to 10 because I've watched your games. You don't play 10.
Yeah. No, I think 7 or 8 is a good number to play. If you just look at this last year's team, our senior class last year, they won 84 games in their 4-year career, state championship runner-up, 3 league championships, school record number of wins. Obviously, Hannah at the top of that list with the record she broke, and playing at the Division I level. Also on that team, you think about Jada Stahlbaumer. I don't know if we win state her junior year if she doesn't have that monster second half, against Andover. She's playing in Ottawa now. Kinley Wilhelm was a 3-sport athlete. who had like 18 points and 14 rebounds in the state tournament this year. Ava Esser, probably one of the best rebounders I've coached. Playing college volleyball now. You could go with any of those players. The year before, Taylor Stahlbaumer was the best defensive player in the state and our school record holder for 3-point shots. So I'm thinking about if we want to play fast, do we want to play with a lot of guards? I'd have to consider that. Also in Taylor's class, Eleanor Stahlbaumer on that team. I know they keep stats for the UKC league, and she's up there like maybe second all time in the league, 3-point field goal percentage. So she played her role. In 2023, we had Carson Anderson and JC Schumann, who are now college soccer players, who showed great leadership and they'll get our team to the state tournament. And that's something that we've always had great seniors. They've been able to pass down that tradition that was given to them. And I know our seniors take pride of being that team that continue the streak going. We don't want it to end on our watch. We want to leave it better than we found it. In 2021, Reagan Kramer, who's now going to coach with me, probably one of the toughest players I've coached. I remember in a midseason tournament, the player from Derby was going to Oregon State. She was a McDonald's All-American. She's 6'6", and Reagan's like 5'3", and Reagan guarded her. She wanted to guard her. She was hard nosed. She was tough. Also in her class, Riley Cowan, who was instrumental in us, getting in the state, college soccer player. John Asia Anderson was in that class. She went to Washburn for track. Cameron Turner was also in that class. She only played, 3 years, but a lot of talented girls in that class. Thinking back to 2020, that's a special class to me. They came in, with me. I saw them in middle school. I was coaching boys, and I would watch them practice in the mornings, and I'd get there like, wow, I'd really like to coach these kids someday. They just had that it factor. Chloe Carter, played at Washburn, averaged like 16 points a game. She would be up there. Riley Poulter was on that team. And Riley made a lot of plus one plays. I tell that to my kids all the time about, the one play that you make could help us win the game. But also a plus one play would be an extra play. I remember in a sub-state championship game, she gets an offensive rebound right before the end of the half and ended up getting a three-pointer. So then you go up to the halftime with the lead, feel more comfortable than behind. And a lot of people may not recognize that one play, but that could have been the turning point of the game. She always did that. Sophie Sparks was on that team, great defender and athlete, and Maddie Steiner, her role was to shoot the ball. And I just wish that senior class could have won the state championship. We had won 14 games in a row uh, into the state tournament. And in my mind, we were destined to win. But like I said, life doesn't always go our way. In 2019, Megan Skoke, Taylor Russell, uh, that was my first team to get to state here at Seaman. I really feel like they set the tone on what it takes to be a leader, toughness, and to be a good teammate. They showed the underclassmen what it takes to play here, what it means to play here. And then my very first year, I took over for Steve Alexander. He continued as my assistant. And the senior class, Delaney, Michaela, Shelby, and Hallie really bought into what I was trying to do as a coach. So I can't pick eight. It'd be really hard. You can pick any one of those eight. How about that? But those are just some secrets that I've had over the years that everybody does their part. They really do. And I know you mentioned earlier about how do we keep the tradition going? How do we keep the culture strong? I like to have a daily quote every day in practice. And we have an emphasis every day in practice. The quote, I'll call on players all the time, to recite the quote during practice. It could be something that we're involved with at a team or a big game. Just get them to seeing that this game is bigger than basketball in an emphasis. What do we want to focus on, today? So that's kind of I know I kind of got a little off topic there, but I think that makes our culture strong is just realizing of all the people that have come before us and be here long after me, to keep this program strong.
I love that, that you went through a list of number of girls there, and it sounded like the majority of the time you've been fortunate that the senior class you've always got people stepping up to be leaders, and I know that anytime you can have the seniors, even if they maybe aren't your best players, but they lead and they do the extra things. They do the small things. They show here's what our program is about. Is That's paramount to have success year after year.
Yeah, and I think, with my experience playing at Washburn, I was that player that, I wasn't going to play a lot of minutes, but when I got the opportunity to make the most of it, and you're on that bench, you're part of the team, and little things, big things, just finding things that kids are good at and play those strengths.
Let's flip it now. You've had a good run here at Seaman, and you've had the chance to play against some good people throughout the state of Kansas. So give me the your starting five of people you've coached against.
Okay. Well, in the Centennial League, it was really talented when I first started. Hayden always had good players. Washburn Rule, Charlie Batchelor, played Division One. Topeka High, uh, Day and Smith, they're really good. So I'll just maybe just focus on the UKC players here. Obviously Farmer last year, she did it all. She was a tough guard. I'm glad to see her graduate and move on. She's a really good player.
We're gonna see
Alice,
how good a coach Roby is this without her now. I tell him that all the time. That I say,
yeah,
dude, you
I tell you want to see a good coach, you have good players. That's a lot of I. These last couple of years, I just tried to stay out of the way. Uh, the McCallum sisters at Piper were obviously very good. I know one's playing Division One, and her sister, I think, just committed somewhere. Some really good players in the UKC. I feel like the league this year is going to be very balanced this year. Um, we played Samaya Nichols, Shawnee Mission West, I believe, in a mid-season tournament. And I can't remember a girl's name from Derby. She plays at Iowa State now. She was a McDonald's All American. We beat both of their teams one year in the midseason tournament. So I just used that, for belief with the girls. Hey, we can beat, big time players like that when we do it together. So I'd probably say this.
Yeah, I remember Ryan mentioned it to mine, and I actually just saw her this last year playing as the lead guard for KU, and she's tough, and so
Yeah,
that's a good win.
she's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. All right, you're a KU fan. Obviously, I look above you.
Hey,
Unfortunately,
right.
unfortunately. So give me your starting five of all time, and so what I've done with um, Ryan and also Steve Wallace at Piper is just in general, like you can use their after KU talents as well. Ryan looked at Embiid and said he's got to be on there based on what he's done after the fact. Just if you had five that ever played a game at KU, who would those be?
Wow. A lot of tradition there. You can probably have 10 different five and beat anybody, right? You can't ignore Will and JoJo White. I think of those guys, being all time great Jayhawks. But if I had to go with five, I would pick five that I grew up watching. So within my lifetime, obviously Danny Manning at the four. My favorite player growing up. I think I was 7 years old when they won the national championship. I wrote a letter to him when I was in the second grade. He wrote back. I have it like laminated and in my safe. I show it to my kids all the time. But oh man, Danny Manning, that was my guy. So I'd have Danny at the four, Thomas Robinson at the five. I just thought he played with so much heart all the time. I think he knew what it meant to wear Kansas on that jersey. Paul Pierce at the three, you know, smooth scorer. If he would have stayed one more year, he was on that KU team, the best KU team that never won it. But I definitely Paul Pierce at the three. Jared House at the two. That's something my dad told me growing up. Hey, pretend you're Jared House out there. Floor burns. He was all about the defensive end. And when I was younger, I went to a KU basketball camp, and Jared House was the coach in our gym. We got to play 5-on-5 with him. And this was like after hours. We were all in there playing. We played for like 30 minutes. And after we played, guys, I didn't take one shot, but our team still won. And he was talking about, hey, running hard for your teammates, or you want to play defense. And I'll never forget that. And I feel like Jared Hass is another all-time true Jayhawk. Um, and then probably Devontae Graham. The heart he played with, he combo guard, he could handle it, he could shoot, and I think that would be my five. If I could have six, I always liked Billy Thomas. He was a great shooter that came off the bench. If he played today without how teams really stress the 3-point shot, he'd probably be even better, right? But those would be my starting five right there.
Yeah, I love that question. All three guys have had different lineups, but it's about how you look at it. Because if you said, I want this style of basketball, you're going to go one way. And if you want a different style, you might go another. Or in your case, you said, these are the guys I grew up with. And this is why I chose them. And so, I mean, because Wilt would be easy, but I mean, you see the black and white footage, that's about all you get. And, and so it's hard to say. Obviously, he's a great player, but
if you wanted to play big, you could have Prince and Collison in there. If you wanted to play big line, there's so many ways you pick a squad, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite players, and I've had a chance to get to know him a little bit, is Wayne Simeon. Yeah, Wayne, he killed. I'm a K-State guy, and he killed K-State, which pretty much everybody on that list killed K-State. So, I mean, it's a long list of K-State killers. And I don't know if you're an NBA guy, but I'm curious your starting five if you had all-time NBA.
Well, I was an NBA guy, back in the 90s and early 2000s. I joke with my students all the time about today's NBA. I'm not really a fan of today's NBA where they shoot 63 pointers a game. But if I had all time, I put Magic at the one. That'd be a tough matchup. 6'9" point guard, Showtime. Well, obviously Michael Jordan at the two, best player ever. And I get debates with my high school students all the time. Who's better, Jordan or LeBron? LeBron's not even on the top five. I'll go with I'll go Kobe Bryant at the three. Just the competitiveness that he played with, the drive. Larry Bird at the four, and I'll go with Wilt at the five. I mean, if the game of basketball, if you had to change three rules because you're so dominant with Wilt Chamberlain, he should be in the all-time top five. But I think he gets overlooked a little bit. I know it's a different time, but I think he averaged 50 and 25 in 1 year. I mean, come on, that's pretty good. But that'd be my five: Magic, Jordan, Kobe, Bird, and Wilt.
You and I have the same 2, 3, and 4. I went with Steph because of the way the game's played, and then I grew up watching Shaq and how dominant he was in the Lakers and the Magic run. But those three in the middle, I was talking with somebody, and they're like, well, Jordan and Kobe are the same. I said, well, good luck going against those two. I mean, good luck. They're going
exactly.
If you get past one, you got another one, and then I don't think people understand just how competitive Larry Bird was either.
Yeah, for sure. I tell my kids all the time, no way, they want to play in today's game. I'm sorry.
If you can play and shoot and do what they were doing then, when honestly physicality was a lot more a part of the game, the free-flowing style there would be guys that would just they wouldn't know what to do because they aren't getting touched while they shoot.
They're different games, different styles.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. And I tell my students, hey, the 92 dream team would be this last Olympic team in a 7-game series. I tell them that all the time.
That team was special.
Legends. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. Minus Christian Laettner. He was just kind of a token guy on there. He was a nice player in his own right, but he didn't fit that team.
No, he didn't.
I appreciate you coming on, and I wish you the best of luck this year.
Yeah, taking time to talk. I enjoyed it.